FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 9/16/19. And, well, hey, lots going on here. A lot going on in the world. We got the Middle East on tenterhooks. We're seeing gold and silver, where they were up dramatically before. They're up even higher now. Gold had fallen below that magical $1,500 per ounce level. It's up $17.10 the ounce at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to 15.05. Silver was at 19, pulled back to 17, looked like it was going below that, but it's bounced back 53 cents the ounce at 17.94. Well, what do the stars say? What is ahead of us here? Our good friend Arch Crawford is back after a long hiatus. You find him at crawfordperspectives.com. Arch, welcome back. So what are the charts telling you these days?
Delighted to be here. Well, the big thing in the stock market is that the S&P and probably most of the other major indices are forming what is called a megaphone or broadening pattern with higher highs and lower lows. And we're back up at the top right now. The S&P could go up a little bit more in the next, 2 to 5 trading days, but it's at an ideal sell point. And the momentum indicators gave a sell a couple of months ago already on the weekly charts. So that's the longer, intermediate to longer term picture, I think. The gold, we were fortunate in giving a strong buy signal for the first time in years on our June the 3rd issue at a very, very good price. And so we said everybody to add positions to whatever they have now on June the 3rd. So that beat the actual upside breakout from the 7-year trading pattern. And after that, regular analysts also began to jump in on it. I picked it because of the astronomic picture, the sky patterns. And gold is particularly sensitive to sky patterns. I traded it for a living in the mid-70s for 3 years and found it, I made 250% a year for those 3 years before the amount you have to put up to trade went above my pocketbook at the time.
Yeah. All right. So that's all good. So what are we looking at? What's your thoughts now? So
on the market?
Yeah, on the market, stock market. Where do you think the stock market is heading here?
Well, this pattern suggests a lot lower. And we're, of course, in the period of time, September and October, traditionally or historically, the worst of the time period. Actually, the worst of the seasonal pattern for the market matches our hurricane pattern here in the United States. I don't know if there's a good mechanical reason for that or not, but I once did a study of the biggest down days going back to 1928 in the S&P when it started, and put them around the calendar. And 2/3 of the biggest down days were in 1/3 of the calendar year, centered on the fall equinox, which tends to be September 22nd, plus or minus a day. So that's just, we're in a period where we can have big down days, more likely by quite a bit that we have large down days. Now, there's no guarantee. And also, I developed a study many years ago in the 90s about all of the major crashes going back over 100 years, and every one has occurred in the same 40% of the synodic period of Mars and Uranus. In other words, their relationship to each other. And no crash has taken place in that period outside of 40% of that cycle. It's a very short-term cycle, though. It's only 2 years. Mm-hmm. And every crash has occurred in the same portion. So we've had 2 crashes since then in 01 and 08, and both of them were also in the period where I had written about as possibilities. So we are re-entering that period in the middle of October.
October, huh?
Excuse me, it's not October, it's early November. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to have a crash before then, which typically has occurred in October. So
yes.
I'm watching for the downside to begin more deliberately, and it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't broken important trend lines and moving averages yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the tenor hooks here. You mentioned that word. Yeah. Waiting to see if it will finally break. I believe it will, although I don't look. The greater seriousness from the sky patterns is actually in January.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So January, huh? So what do you see for the dollar? The dollar has a chart, right?
The dollar is reaching a level of resistance from a couple of trend lines. And the dollar index is, I think, against 12 or 13 of the currencies, and it's a future that's traded on the exchanges here, and it's up near 100 and running into resistance. But the trend is still higher in a sawtooth pattern for the last about close to 2 years now. It's been making higher highs and higher lows. But as I say, it's running into heavier resistance coming up. So again, that is also had momentum sell signals, several of them over the last year and a half, and none of them have yet resulted in a price decrease. Mm. So that is a fairly unusual picture, but I believe technically it leaves it vulnerable.
Interesting. So what about interest rates? What are we seeing here?
Interest rates have been totally mad. Let's see, start on that. We hit the top in last October, I think it was, above 3. I think it was 3.24, 3.24, something like that. And we have gone steadily and speedily down to almost 1.4. From 3.24 to 1.43, I guess it is. Mm. And that low took place around the end of August, the 1st of September. And now we are rising sharply and just went up through the 50-day moving average, which suggests the possibility that it's making a long-term intermediate turning point to the upside. That's unusual, considering that the worldwide interest rates have been tanking for a long time, and suggesting that they are slowing on the downside and may actually turn to the upside for a bit. If it breaks that, if it hits 140, then it's broken back down again. So I'd say leaning slightly to the upside, and being wary that a new low would mean further deterioration in rates. But this is the first time ever in history that we've had trillions of dollars worth of bonds with a negative interest rate. This has never happened before, and it's totally irrational the only thing that accounts for it is a generalized fear that you may not get your money back from these government bonds even.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? You think that fear is justified?
Yes. This is also, I don't know how long it's been that almost every currency now is a fiat currency, and there are no currencies that I know of that are backed by anything real. So the way it's characterized here in the States is that it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, and I think all other countries are doing that same thing, which, I don't have that faith in.
You don't have that credit of all faith in full faith and credit? You don't have that, huh? You're a little cynical.
Well, we have the greatest debt ever devised in history, over $22 trillion of government bonds outstanding. And that leaves the dollar vulnerable. The only thing protecting it is the United States does have the respectability, and that there are things that we could do that we are not doing yet in terms of control of the currency. So I think ours has the greater confidence in the world, and therefore our interest rates have not gone negative yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're headed that way.
You think they're headed that way?
Yes. I mean, the trend is that way, definitely, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you really think we're going to go down that path, huh?
I'm only saying that the trend currently is very decidedly in that direction and around the whole world.
True. It's definitely the trend is there, but it's suicidal because it turns the whole system on its head, doesn't it?
Yes, but we're going in the whole world. We're up to like 12, 13, 14 trillion that are and currently at giving negative interest rates. And I'm saying it's totally irrational and weird and crazy. It's never happened before in the 5,000 or 6,000 years of monetary history.
Yeah, I know. It's madness. It's really kind of madness, and it makes it impossible to figure out how to invest. So I guess
it's not madness if you think that the currencies around the world are going to fail, that the governments are going to fail.
Yeah, I guess so. So you think that's what's going to happen?
Well, we're entering a sky period, where Saturn is going to form a conjunction back and forth for 2 or 3 years with Pluto. And those tend to be periods of heavy recession and possible depression. So I'm concerned about that.
For good reason, too, right? So
yeah.
Is there any possibility that the madness is going to have a happy solution here?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming, led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange, under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Of course, there's always a probability. The economy and the markets are a practice in probabilities. And if you have a better way of calculating the probabilities, you can make more money than other people. But it's always probabilities. And history has shown that markets can do anything, which leaves us at a certain amount of loss.
Yeah. Understood. So what about all the other markets out there, real estate and, all the other, besides stock markets?
Well, Well, real estate has started selling those CDOs again. And it's nowhere near as widespread as it got to in 07, 08, but it's picking up again, which suggests caution in the real estate. The real estate markets across the country in the major cities have gone a little bit nuts, and they may have a period of retraction. It would be reasonable to expect a period of retraction. That doesn't mean it's going to anytime soon, but we suspect that it will in this period where the Saturn-Pluto thing is hitting over the next 2.5, 3 years.
Interesting. So what else do we need to be aware of here, Arch?
Well, we need to be especially light-footed in being able to switch from one thing to another as these trends shift. And they certainly shifted this weekend with the oil situation in Saudi Arabia. I mean, oil is up like $6, and it was up over 8 or 9 overnight. It's now up $6.45, which is, it's not unheard of, but it hasn't been seen since those days where it was up around 140.
Right. Well, where's it headed? Is it going to go back up to 140, or is it going to skulk around here?
Well, if we go into world slump, prices of commodities and everything else will be lower. And we did break a significant support level in the CRB commodity index in the last 4 or 5 weeks. We hit a new low. And this past week, I was looking at the charts on Saturday morning, and a number of commodities were hitting new lows, including there are several commodities that are indicative of what the economy might do. For instance, the copper market is very significant to our economic, many of our economic processes. So if copper is rising, it's usually positive for our economy. And if copper is dropping, it's usually negative for our economy, and it's dropping. Lumber, price of lumber is significant to what the housing market is doing. So you keep an eye on lumber if you want to know the housing. And the lumber is not as bad as the copper, but it's beginning to slip a bit.
Interesting.
So that does give further indication that things will be lower in the next few months.
So you think we're heading for a recession?
Yes.
That seems to be the common wisdom. What about the relationship with the U.S. and China?
Lord, I have prayers for that, but I don't have knowledge of that.
Nothing in the charts for it?
There's so many things going on between us and them, and it fluctuates rather wildly these days. And you watch the full moons, and these big changes often take place at the full moons, where you get new information that changes everything for a few days. So it's a complex situation, certainly.
Yes, it certainly is complex.
I wrote a piece on China years ago. I said actually that what the United States and the major Western countries do is they build up another country and give it all kinds of technology and everything else and help it grow and grow and grow, and then create a war with them. And we did that with Germany, we did it with Russia, and we did it with China. And we have been transferring our technology to them massively in the last decade and a half. And are our elites building us up to a war with them? Maybe. But I predicted that they would at least 10 years ago.
But it could be like Frankenstein's monster, right? Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah. We created this monster.
The thing is, a lot of people make a lot of money on war, and that some of the most powerful people in the world promote them, including people that we know and love.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess in the scheme of business, war is the most profitable business there is, huh?
Yes.
Because the contracts flow. Nobody cares what anything costs. The printing presses are on full speed ahead, right? And we just spend whatever it takes.
So I think they could be built up into a considerable war entity, but whether it's done so or not has to do with the vagaries of nature.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, it's all kind of interesting here. So best place to find your work is still crawfordperspectives.com?
Yes, it is. We still have the same price, $250 a year, that we had in 1977 when we started. It's now 42 years old.
All right. Excellent. Hey, there's always a link to it in the show notes. And don't forget, questions, comments for Arch or myself. What do you think about the price of gold, war with China, etc.? Just email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Arch, it's good talking with you again, and we'll stay tuned, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.